Please comment where you are watching in the world. I'm Claire from Seattle. I met this guy, Alex, on Tinder. He looked normal in his pictures, cute in a soft, approachable way. Nothing flashy, nothing overdone. We started chatting, and right away there was a spark. He was funny, thoughtful, and easy to talk to. After a few days of back and forth, he asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. It seemed low pressure, so I agreed. We met at this indie cafe a few blocks from my apartment. In person, Alex was exactly like he seemed online, relaxed, friendly, and attentive. He asked good questions, made me laugh, and never dominated the conversation. Honestly, it was the best first date I'd had in a while. We parted ways with an easy hug, and I remember walking home feeling giddy. A few days later, he suggested dinner. He picked a cozy little place with fairy lights strung across the ceiling. He paid the bill, opened doors, even walked me to my car without any pressure. It was refreshing, normal, safe. I started to let my guard down. By the third date, I felt comfortable enough to meet at his place. Normally I wouldn't go to someone's apartment so soon, but something about him put me at ease. His apartment was clean and neat, though oddly sparse. Almost like he had just moved in. A couple of abstract paintings hung on the wall, and everything smelled faintly of eucalyptus. We ordered takeout and watched a movie. Halfway through the night, the shift began. He started complaining, first about the rent, then about losing hours at work. I sympathized, offering the usual, "that sucks," and nods. Then he asked if I could lend him some money. "Just a couple hundred," he said. "Nothing crazy." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. His face remained serious. When I told him I wasn't comfortable loaning money so soon, his expression hardened. He rubbed his temples and stared at me with a strange intensity. "I thought you were different," he said. "I really thought you were someone who got it." There was something in his voice. Disappointment? Or a threat cloaked in hurt? "I'm sorry," I said. "I just don't think money should be part of this." Then he murmured something I'll never forget. "You might want to reconsider," he said, eyes glued to his phone. "I mean, I have those pics you sent. Would be a shame if they ended up somewhere." I froze. I had sent him a few flirty photos. Nothing explicit, but enough to be compromising. My heart dropped into my stomach. "You're joking," I said, trying to play it off. He smirked. "I don't joke about this kind of thing." My instincts screamed. I grabbed my bag. "I think I should go." His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, not hard but firm. "Don't be dramatic," he said. "We're just talking." I yanked my arm free and walked out, refusing to look back. I didn't run, didn't cry, but my hands shook as I got into my car. A message popped up as I pulled away. "Think about it, Claire. You don't want to make me your enemy." That night, I barely slept. Every sound outside my window felt like a threat. I kept checking my phone, dreading the next message. By morning, I knew I had to tell someone. I called my best friend, Elise, and told her everything. She was furious. "We need to find him. Look him up. Socials, background, anything." But we found nothing. His Tinder profile? Deleted. The number he used? Linked to a burner ad on Craigslist. No Instagram. No Facebook. Even the last name he gave me turned up blank. That's when the panic truly set in. I went to the police. They listened, but the response was tepid. "Unless he attempts to extort you or threatens physical harm, there's not much we can do," the officer said. I showed them the texts. They sympathized but said to block him. If it escalated, then they'd act. That night, I got another message. "Bad move, Claire. Now I have to teach you a lesson." Attached was one of the photos I sent, along with a list of email addresses, my manager, colleagues, even a faculty member from a volunteer group I worked with. Then another message. $500 by tomorrow, or they all get this. I broke down. Elise stayed on the phone with me, talking me out of paying. "If you pay him, it'll never stop. We fight." I gathered everything, screenshots, messages, the fake profile, everything. I went back to the police. This time, they took it seriously. They traced the email address to a burner phone, then cross-referenced patterns. Turns out Alex was actually Daniel H., a man who had been doing this to women across several states. He had dozens of identities, a digital ghost with countless victims. Some had paid. Some had lost their jobs. One woman had her photos sent to her entire family. They arrested him in a sting. In his apartment, they found over a dozen phones, stacks of IDs, and folders of screenshots and pictures, hundreds of them. I should have felt relieved. But some of my photos had already been leaked. Not all, but enough. I had to sit down with my manager, explain what happened, try to salvage my reputation. He made bail. I moved out of my apartment, changed my number, deleted everything tied to my name. But even now, months later, I still double-check every lock. I feel eyes on me when I walk alone. I keep wondering how close he got to doing worse. And how many more like him are still out there, smiling, swiping, waiting. I survived. But just barely. I'm Elise. I live just outside Boulder, Colorado, in a quiet suburb that backs up into the foothills. It's peaceful, predictable. Until a few months ago, that's all I wanted: routine, simplicity, nothing dramatic. But then I met Adrian. We matched on Tinder late one night when I couldn't sleep. His profile was different. No shirtless mirror selfies, no obnoxious bio about being just here for fun. Instead, his profile said, "In search of clarity, connection, and people who remember how to look up at the sky." I know, it sounds pretentious. But it intrigued me. His pictures weren't overly posed either. A photo of him reading under a tree, one of him at a waterfall, and another with a worn-looking dog that I instantly fell in love with. We started chatting that night and never really stopped. He was articulate. He used words like liminal and transcendence, but not in a condescending way. He talked about the world like he had broken out of the box we're all stuck in. After a few days, I felt like I knew him, or at least wanted to. About a week in, he invited me to a party. "It's not a wild rager," he said. "Just some friends. Think of it more like a gathering." Something about the way he said gathering made me pause. But curiosity won. The house was deep in the woods outside Netherland, remote, quiet, surrounded by tall pines and mist. It looked like a vacation rental. There were about 15 people inside when I arrived. Not a single one was on their phone. Everyone was so warm. Too warm. They smiled like they knew me. One woman even hugged me and whispered, "We've been waiting for you." I laughed nervously. "Well, I hope I'm not late." Adrian introduced me around. There was Marcus, intense eyes, soothing voice, the kind of guy who speaks slowly so everyone has to listen. There was Ivy, who looked like she stepped out of a Renaissance painting and held my hand for just a beat too long. Then there was Naomi, silent most of the time, but always nearby. The party wasn't really a party. It was quiet, solemn almost. No alcohol. Just herbal tea that tasted earthy and bitter. The conversations weren't surface level either. No one talked about jobs or movies or the weather. They asked questions like, "When did you first question the world? Do you think time is linear? What's the one thing you're still holding on to that's keeping you from waking up?" I left feeling like I'd been hypnotized. On the drive home, I kept checking the rearview mirror. Not because I thought anyone was following me, but because I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd left a piece of myself behind. A few days later, Adrian messaged me again. "There's another gathering this weekend. This one's more private. No distractions. Just us and the truth." I knew I shouldn't go. My gut was screaming. But another part of me wanted to see what would happen. I told myself I could leave anytime I wanted. I drove out on a Saturday evening to a remote lodge in the forest, farther than before. My phone signal vanished 20 minutes before I arrived. The place was candlelit and quiet. When I stepped inside, the group was already seated in a circle on the floor, murmuring softly. The second I entered, they all looked up. Their smiles felt choreographed. "Elise," Marcus said. "Come. Sit." There was no question in his voice. Just certainty. Adrian stood and guided me to the center of the circle, like I was a bride being walked down the aisle. I sat, heart pounding. The group started chanting, low, melodic, rhythmic. The air felt thick, heavy. I couldn't breathe right. Someone pressed something into my hand. A smooth stone, warm, with strange carvings. "You're at the threshold," Marcus said. "You don't have to walk through. But once you see the door, pretending it's not there becomes a choice." Adrian leaned close, lips brushing my ear. "Just repeat after me." I looked around. The candles flickered wildly, though there was no wind. The faces in the circle had changed. They weren't smiling anymore. They were watching me, hungry. "I'm not ready," I whispered. The chanting stopped. Silence fell like a hammer. "That's okay," Ivy said softly. "But the door only opens once." "No one is forced," Marcus added. "But to walk away is to stay blind. And we can't protect you once you leave." I stood up. My legs were shaking. "I need to go." Adrian's face twitched. Not anger. Disappointment. He didn't follow me, but as I reached the door, I felt the weight of every gaze burrowing into my spine. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing those eyes in the dark, hearing the chant in my head like a broken lullaby. I tried texting Adrian the next day. That was too intense. I don't think I want to be part of this. He didn't reply. Then the messages started. From numbers I didn't recognize. We felt something in you. It's rare. Don't turn away. Leaving doesn't make you safe. It just makes you alone. You've seen the truth. It's too late to pretend. I blocked them. More came. Some left voicemails, soft whispers chanting, sometimes just the sound of wind. Once, someone left a voicemail humming a lullaby I hadn't heard since childhood. A lullaby my mother used to sing. I started to see people I recognized from the gatherings, outside my job, near my apartment, in grocery store aisles. They never approached. Just watched. One night, there was a knock on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. It was Adrian. I didn't open it. "Elise," he called softly. "You're not in danger. Not from us. But others, they won't protect you." I stood there, breath shallow, until he left. But then Naomi showed up at my parents' house. My mom called, panicked. "A girl was here asking about you. Said you owed her something?" She wouldn't give a last name. That's when I knew it wasn't just me at risk. I went to the police. They were polite but uninterested. "They haven't done anything illegal," the officer said. "No threats, no violence. But they're following me. They're harassing me. Unless they trespass or physically harm you, it's not actionable." I left in tears. That night, I heard tapping on my bedroom window. I live on the second floor. I opened the curtain slowly. Naomi stood outside on the fire escape, smiling. I screamed. She didn't flinch. She just placed her hand on the glass and mouthed something. It looked like, "Come back." I didn't sleep. The next day, I packed a bag, told my work I needed time off, and disappeared. I changed my number, deleted my social media, moved in with a friend across the state. I told no one. For a few weeks, it was quiet. I started to breathe again. Then one morning, I got a call from a blocked number. I answered, heart pounding. "Still trying to sleep, Elise?" It was Marcus. "You chose blindness," he said. "But even blind, the door finds you." He hung up. That evening, my friend's dog wouldn't stop barking at the back door. I looked outside and saw nothing. But when I checked again an hour later, a smooth stone sat on the doorstep. The same kind they gave me in the circle. It had my name carved into it. They never stopped watching. I left the state eventually. New job. New name. But some nights, I still hear the chant, echoing in my dreams. I'm not new to dating apps. I've been on and off them for years. Mostly bad dates, a few awkward ones, and a couple of flings. Nothing special. Nothing lasting. So when I matched with Eli, I didn't expect much. His profile was normal in the best way. Simple bio, no shirtless photos, clean haircut, jeans and a t-shirt, warm smile. He was from the city, worked in IT, liked coffee, indie films, and paddleboarding. His messages were polite, even a little shy at first. He didn't push. He remembered things I said. It was refreshing. After 3 days of chatting, he asked me out. Dinner. A nice little restaurant downtown. Casual. Comfortable. The night went well. He was exactly like his messages. Thoughtful, funny, easy to talk to. He asked about my work, my dog, the cities I wanted to travel to. When I realized I'd forgotten my wallet, I was mortified, but Eli just smiled and waved it off. No big deal. It's just dinner, he said. When we left, he offered me a ride home. Swear I'm not a serial killer, he joked, and I laughed. It didn't feel weird. He had been a perfect gentleman all night. The next morning, I was getting ready for work when there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Eli standing there with a bouquet of tulips, my favorite. "I just wanted to surprise you," he said. "You mentioned these were your favorite, remember?" I forced a smile and took the flowers. It was sweet, but also a little much. We'd had one date. One. Still, I chalked it up to eagerness. I thanked him, made an excuse about running late, and he left. Then it started happening more. I spotted him across the street from my office a few days later. He was sitting at a sidewalk cafe, sipping coffee and staring straight at me. When I walked outside, he stood and waved like it was fate. "Fancy seeing you here," he said. I forced a smile, made small talk, and hurried back inside. That weekend, I went out with friends. As I left the bar around midnight, I saw him again, leaning against a light post outside. "Naomi," he called out. "Small world, huh?" That's when my stomach turned. San Diego's a big city. These weren't coincidences. I stopped replying to his texts. That's when the messages changed. "Saw you at the grocery store today. Looking good in that sundress." You should smile more when you walk to the bus. People notice. I hadn't seen him, but he'd seen me. One night, I got off the bus and walked the 5 blocks home like usual. The streets were quiet, but I had that feeling. You know the one. Eyes on your back, footsteps that sync just a second too closely with yours. I glanced behind me. There he was, a few paces behind, hood up, hands in his jacket. I picked up my pace. So did he. When I reached my apartment building, I didn't hesitate. I sprinted up the steps, shoved my key into the lock, and slammed the door behind me. Through the peephole, I saw him standing on the sidewalk, staring. He didn't knock. He didn't leave. He just watched. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I went to the police. I brought screenshots of the texts. I explained the following: the coincidences, the flowers, the watching. The officer flipped through my printouts with the enthusiasm of a DMV clerk. Has he threatened you? No, but physically harmed you? No. Well, unless there's a direct threat or trespassing, there's not much we can do. It's uncomfortable, sure, but not illegal. I left the station feeling invisible, like a ghost telling a story no one believed. So I texted Eli. Short. Firm. Please stop contacting me. I'm uncomfortable. Don't show up at my home or work. Respect my space. He read it instantly. Typing bubble. Then nothing. No response. For a few days, I saw no sign of him. No texts. No chance run-ins. I let myself breathe again. Maybe it was over. Then I came home to a box on my doorstep, wrapped in plain brown paper. No return address. Inside, a silver heart-shaped necklace. Delicate. Pretty. Almost childish. And beneath it, a note. You forgot this. I never owned a necklace like that. I moved 2 weeks later. Broke my lease, packed up everything I could carry, and left. New apartment across the city. New number. New routine. For a while it worked. Then one night, walking to my car after a late shift, I heard fast, purposeful footsteps behind me. I turned. Eli. He didn't speak at first. Just stared. How did you find me? I asked, voice trembling. He stepped closer. Why did you leave? His voice wasn't angry. Just confused. Sad even. You need to leave, I said, backing away. He took another step. You don't understand. You're supposed to be with me. Then he reached into his jacket. Flash of metal. A knife. I screamed, aloud and raw. A door opened nearby. My neighbor, an older guy, broad-shouldered, burst out, holding a baseball bat. What the hell is going on out here? Eli froze. Just for a second. Then bolted. The police took it seriously this time. I got a restraining order. They started searching. But he was gone again. Like before. No trace. I packed everything I had and left the city entirely. That was 3 years ago. I live in another state now. I don't post online. I don't use dating apps. I check over my shoulder in parking lots. I never take the same route home twice. I've changed everything. But some nights, when the wind hits the windows just right, when the streetlights flicker, I still see him. Waiting. Watching. And I wonder if one day, I'll come home to another box. With another note. Telling me I forgot something. Dating apps are exhausting. Swipe left, swipe right, 99% of the time it's a waste of time or worse, mildly traumatic. But then there was Lucas. His profile didn't scream attention seeker. No shirtless gym pics, no fishing trophies. He looked clean-cut, had kind eyes, and a half-smile like he didn't care whether or not you thought he was hot. That's what drew me in. We matched on a Tuesday. He was quick-witted, polite, a little sarcastic but never mean. Our conversation flowed. Within hours, I found myself actually laughing out loud at something he said. I was cautious, though. I always am. But Lucas? He didn't push. Didn't ask for pictures. Didn't rush to meet up. Just chatted. Easy. Steady. By Friday, he asked if I wanted to grab a coffee downtown. Somewhere public. Just a short one. No pressure, he said. And he meant it. When I arrived at the cafe, he was already there reading. He stood up when I walked in, smiled, and didn't go in for an awkward hug or anything. We talked for an hour about books, documentaries, travel stories. Nothing felt forced. When it was over, he didn't even try to kiss me. Just asked if I wanted to meet again. I said yes. The second date was a week later. Dinner at a trendy but low-key Thai place. He was the same as before, charming, engaged, funny. I liked him more than I expected to. After we ate, he offered to drop me off at my place. I left something at my apartment, he added casually. It's on the way. Mind if we swing by for a second? I hesitated, but he had been nothing but respectful. I nodded. His place was in an older building tucked into a quieter neighborhood. One of those older apartment blocks with heavy wooden doors and creaky hallways. The second I stepped inside, though, something shifted. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The space was too clean, not in a tidy way, but sterile. Like no one actually lived there. No photos. No books. No mess. No warmth. Then I saw the shoes. A pair of women's flats, delicate and pale blue, neatly placed by the front door. They were clean but scuffed around the toes. Like someone had taken them off in a hurry, and never came back for them. Before I could ask, a girl stepped into the hallway. She was petite, maybe my age, with dark circles under her eyes. Her gaze flicked to me, then to Lucas. Her mouth opened slightly, like she was about to say something. Then Lucas moved. He stepped between us so smoothly, it was like choreography. Don't mind her, he said lightly. She's just crashing here for a bit. It's complicated. The girl didn't move. She stood perfectly still, her hands trembling slightly. Her eyes met mine, and something in my gut dropped. Get out, get out, get out. I think I should go, I said, keeping my tone light. Lucas turned to me, smiling too wide. There's no rush. My heart pounded. I looked back at the girl. She shook her head slowly, almost imperceptibly, lips pressed tight. I stepped toward the door. Lucas blocked the way. He didn't touch me. Not yet. Just stood there, still smiling. Where's the fire? He asked. I felt it then, that shift. Like the air had dropped 10 degrees. The warmth in his face melted into something colder. A mask slipping. I forced a laugh. Seriously, I have an early morning. Rain check. He didn't move. We just got here. Then another man stepped out from the hallway. I hadn't seen him before. Stockier than Lucas. Shaved head. Blank eyes. He didn't speak. Just stood behind the girl. She flinched. I tried again. Lucas, let me go. Now. He didn't reply. Instead, he reached for my wrist, gently like it was no big deal, but his grip was firm. Don't make a scene, he said. That's when instinct kicked in. I yanked my arm back, fast and hard, and drove my elbow into his side. He grunted, surprised. His grip loosened. I ran. Bolted for the door, heart hammering, legs shaking. Behind me, I heard a scuffle, a noise like something knocked over. Feet pounding on the hardwood. I hit the hallway and kept running, down the narrow stairs 2 at a time, lungs burning. My purse bounced off my hip with every step. I didn't look back. Didn't slow down. When I reached the front entrance, I yanked the door open and almost slammed into a couple walking by. Help me! I gasped, breathless. The man grabbed my arm instinctively, steadying me. What happened? I turned. The door behind me was shut. Silent. No Lucas. No man. No girl. I tried to explain, but my voice kept cracking. My whole body was shaking, adrenaline turning my limbs to jelly. The couple helped me call the police. They searched the apartment within the hour. But it was empty. Bare. No furniture except a mattress on the floor. A few takeout containers. Some rope. No Lucas. No other guy. No girl. Gone. Like they had never been there at all. But they had been. I filed a report. Described everything. The police listened, took notes. They asked if I knew his last name. I didn't. The number he gave me was disconnected by the next day. But the police found something worse. A shoebox hidden under the mattress. Inside were 7 women's IDs. None of them were mine. They released some photos of the men based on my description, linking them to missing persons cases from Arizona, Nevada, and Oregon. The faces didn't match any databases. No fingerprints. No names. Just shadows. I never used a dating app again. But the worst part, a month after the incident, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a pair of pale blue shoes. The same shoes I'd seen by Lucas's door. Except this time, there was a note tucked inside. Thanks for running. You made it fun. There's this moment in every good horror movie where the main character knows something is wrong, but they tell themselves it's fine. They explain away the red flag. They rationalize the feeling. That was me. His name was Aiden. We met on Tinder during one of those Sunday night loneliness spirals. He was attractive, clean-cut, wore glasses, had a dog in one photo, and his smile didn't look rehearsed. His bio read, "Looking for something real. If you like bookstores, bonfires, or bad horror movies, swipe right." I swiped right. We started talking that night. He was funny. Not in a stand-up comedian way, just quick, clever, dry. He complimented me without being gross. And he never once tried to turn the conversation flirty or sexual. He made me feel interesting, not just clickable. He sent good morning texts. Told me I had old soul energy. That I seemed genuine in a world built on filters. It felt nice. Like maybe this one was different. He wanted something serious, he said. He brought me coffee at work once, left a book in my mailbox with a sticky note that said, "This reminded me of you." After years of half-effort men and ghosted goodnights, this felt like the beginning of something real. There was only one weird thing. We never went to his place. Not once. We always met at my apartment or out somewhere, parks, bars, restaurants. When I joked about it once, "What, is your place haunted?" He laughed and said, "Honestly, it's a disaster. I'm too embarrassed." I let it go. You can justify anything when you want to believe the good. One night, we were at dinner. He went to the restroom, and his phone lit up on the table. I wasn't snooping, I swear I wasn't. But the name on the message caught my eye. "Don't forget about Lila." The text was short. No context. But my brain latched onto it. Lila? A friend? A sister? When he came back, he saw me glancing at the screen and immediately flipped the phone over. Too fast. Too defensive. "Who's Lila?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Work thing," he said. "You know how it is." Except I didn't. Aiden worked in marketing, and I couldn't imagine any version of that job where "don't forget about Lila" made sense. Something twisted in my gut. I couldn't explain it, but it didn't let go. That night, lying awake, I did something I'd never done before with someone I was dating. I Googled his name alongside the word "missing." I didn't expect to find anything. But I did. Lila Granger. Missing. Last seen 3 weeks ago after leaving a bar. No suspects. No foul play confirmed. Just gone. My stomach dropped. I clicked through her photos. She was my age. Normal. Happy. Her last social post had comments filled with heart emojis and desperate prayers. I kept digging. Another name, Sarah Miles. Missing 3 months ago. And then, Nina Rosario. Disappeared 5 months ago. I searched their profiles. My heart froze. On Sarah's old photo from 6 months ago, buried in the comments, was one from Aiden's profile. Looking great. Winking face. Same with Nina. Same damn emoji. The next time I saw him, I tried to act normal. Smiling. Laughing. Pretending I didn't know what I knew. Then, like I was testing something, I said, "Hey, weird question. Did you know Sarah Miles? She went missing like a few months ago." He didn't blink. Doesn't ring a bell. That's awful though. His tone was off. Like he was reading a script. That's when the fear really started. I told him I needed space. Sent a long text saying I wasn't in the right headspace for something serious. He replied quickly, "If that's what you want." Short. Cold. The warmth was gone. I blocked his number. Deleted our messages. Changed my locks. I thought it was over. 2 nights later, I saw his car parked across the street from my apartment. Not moving. Just sitting there. I didn't call the police. What would I even say? That a man was parked legally, but made me uncomfortable? I waited, lights off, barely breathing, until he drove away. A week passed. Then the parking garage incident. It was late. I'd stayed late at work, and the building was nearly empty. My heels clicked loudly on the concrete. Every echo was louder than it should have been. Halfway to my car, I heard footsteps. I turned. No one. I kept walking, faster now. Another sound. Then, from behind one of the pillars, a figure stepped out. It was him. Aiden. He didn't look surprised. "I just want to talk," he said, voice calm. Measured. I backed away. "You need to leave. Now." "You're making a mistake," he said. "You think you know something, but you don't." He stepped forward. I bolted. Ran past him, keys already in my hand, ready to stab if I had to. I reached my car, locked the door, and peeled out of the garage without looking back. I went to the police. They were polite. Sympathetic. But not helpful. "No direct threats," they said. "No proof he's connected to the missing girls." I saw him outside my place. He followed me. "Do you have footage? Photos?" I didn't. So they filed a report and told me to keep an eye out. A month later, another woman went missing. Haley Brenner. 27. Last seen near the Beltline. Her social media was still active. I looked. He'd liked her last post. My hands went cold. I packed a suitcase that night and left. Didn't tell anyone but my parents. Quit my job. Found a sublease 4 cities away. New number. Knew everything. I don't post online. I don't swipe. I don't date. But every now and then, I check the news from Atlanta. More women. More disappearances. No suspect. No arrests. And sometimes, when I can't sleep, I check their social media. Just to see. And every so often, there's a familiar name in the likes. Aiden. Same face. Same glasses. Same smile that doesn't look rehearsed. I don't know how many women he's hurt. I don't know who he really is. We've all had bad dates, right? This is the only date I've had to date that rang every alarm bell and waved every red flag. I'll preface this by saying I don't go on many dates, but when I do I make sure I follow safety protocol by only meeting my date in public places, let either family or friends know where I'm going, and park in a populated place close by to wherever we meet. Anyway, this date initially suggested we meet at his house to watch a movie and have a few drinks, and I said no, I don't feel comfortable with that, and I only want to meet in public. He seemed okay with this, but then brought it up a few more times, and I said if money is an issue we could meet up another time or forget about it altogether. But my date backtracked and went with my idea of meeting at a cafe I chose, that I was familiar with and equidistant to where we both lived. Anyway, he turns up in a 2-door car, this detail is relevant, and goes into the cafe, and I follow behind and introduce myself. After a polite introduction, things begin to get weird. I order a Coke, and he says, "Don't you want a drink?" I was going to pop into bar, which is connected to the cafe, and get one. I say no, I'm not drinking, and he looks at me like WTF, as if I'm being unreasonable. I already explained in messages, I don't drink as I'm on medication, so having to re-explain it again pissed me off. He seems disappointed, and goes to order a cider from the bar while I get a table. Anyway, we sit down with our drinks, and date immediately goes on about going back to his place again, even though the original plan was to stay here and order food, and I already stated that was not happening. He says something along the lines of having a few drinks and eating at his place, and I said we don't have to eat, we can just have our drinks and leave. He gets defensive and says he has money but prefers it if we go back to his. I make a joke and say, "You're not a killer, are you?" And instead of laughing it off, he stares at me uncannily and says, "You don't think I would hurt you, do you?" I laugh uncomfortably and say, "Of course not, but really I'm relieved this date won't be going any further." Date suddenly says, "Are you going to follow me in your car? Because that wouldn't make sense. How about we go in my car, but I've got packages in the front, so you'll have to squeeze in the back, and I'll drop you back off to your car after." In reality, that made less sense than me following him in my own car, and then driving home from this house after. The fact it was completely illogical made it even more creepy in my mind. Every alarm bell was going off at this point. I said, "Look, I don't want to go to yours, and your insistence is giving me the creeps." Date looks shocked, mumbles something about needing the toilet, and excuses himself from the table. A few moments later, I see him through the cafe window getting into his car and driving off. Massive bullet dodged in my opinion. Also, the fact his car didn't have back doors made it even more sinister, because imagine if something happened in the car and I couldn't escape. I used to think I had a good radar for people. I'm not overly trusting. I don't fall fast. I'm careful, especially in a city like Chicago, where the wrong kind of stranger is only ever a block away. But the truth is, when it comes to dating apps, none of that matters. Because you never know what someone's capable of until it's too late. His name was Nathan. We matched on a quiet Friday night. I was drinking tea, wrapped in a blanket, bored out of my mind. His profile looked so normal it was boring, jeans, t-shirt, standing in front of Lake Michigan. His bio was plain. Looking for something real. Tired of games. That line usually makes me roll my eyes. But I swiped right. Our conversation was easy. He asked good questions. Said he worked in finance, but hated the corporate world. He was always the first to say good morning, remembered tiny things I mentioned in passing, sent memes that actually made me laugh. The effort felt real. Rare. After 2 weeks, he started bringing me coffee. He remembered my order, oat milk, no sugar, extra hot. When I had a rough day, he left a bag of sour candy at my door with a note, "For when life sucks but sugar helps." I melted. Of course I did. We started seeing each other regularly. He never pushed anything physical. Always polite, always patient. Too patient, maybe. But I was so used to men who rushed everything, I didn't think much of it. And yet, he never invited me to his place. We were always at mine or out. I brought it up once, joking. What, are you hiding a secret family or a pet tiger? He laughed. Said his apartment was tiny, and he was embarrassed. It's more like a closet than a living space. That made sense in a city like this. Small apartments. Shared laundry. No privacy. I let it go. Until one night, we were watching a movie, and his phone buzzed. He was in the kitchen. The screen lit up. Just for a second. Did you get rid of the stuff from Madeline yet? When he came back, I asked who Madeline was. He paused. A fraction too long. Then smiled. Old coworker. Total flake. Long story. He turned his phone over, screen down. I laughed it off. But that night, when he left, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Something about that message. Get rid of the stuff. What stuff? I stayed up Googling. I typed in Madeline missing Chicago. I found it on the second try. Madeline Wyatt. 29, last seen 2 months ago. Reported missing by a friend after failing to show up for a weekend trip. No leads. Last known location, her apartment. My skin went cold. She looked like me. Brown hair. Soft features. Lived only a few blocks away. I didn't want to believe it, so I dug deeper. Over the next few hours, I found 3 more women. Hannah Rivera. Tasha Lynn. Joelle Marks. All from Chicago. All around my age. All missing. And the one thing they had in common? A Tinder profile liked by a guy named Nathan. Same photos. Same bio. Same stupid smile. I couldn't sleep. I thought about confronting him. But what would I say? Hey, are you secretly murdering women you meet online? That wouldn't go over well. So I lied. I told him I had to go out of town for work. Family emergency. Something to stall him. To buy me time. He texted constantly while I was away. I miss you. Let me know when you're home. Don't go dark on me. His tone got strange. Possessive. When I finally texted him that I needed space, he sent one reply. That's disappointing. Then silence. But the next day, I saw his reflection in the window of my building's entrance. He was across the street, pretending to scroll through his phone. Watching. I didn't go inside. I walked to a cafe, heart hammering, fingers shaking. I waited 2 hours before returning. He was gone. But then the packages started showing up. First, a small gift box on my doorstep. Inside, a used tube of lipstick. No note. Second, a manila envelope. No return address. Inside, 5 photos of me. Walking home from work. At the corner store. In my pajamas by the window. All recent. The third package was the worst. A folded sheet of paper. No pictures. No writing. Just a house key. Not mine. I went to the police. They took it more seriously this time. A detective sat me down, took photos, recorded the statement. But Nathan had vanished. The phone number disconnected. The Tinder profile deleted. No social media. He was smoke. A week later, a neighbor knocked on my door. He looked shaken. Hey, did you see the news? He showed me a headline on his phone. Body found in abandoned apartment. Police investigate connection to missing women. I clicked the article. It was Nathan's building. He did have an apartment. Police found blood traces. Zip ties. Photos. Journals. One entry read, I think Ivy knows. That night, I packed everything and left the city. No forwarding address. No social accounts. I even dyed my hair. I had to disappear before he made me do it for real. Sometimes I still wake up thinking I hear someone in the hallway. I keep my bedroom window locked, even when it's sweltering. I check under the bed. I check the closet. Because men like Nathan don't just vanish. They wait. They change names. They swipe again. And somewhere out there, I know he's starting over, with someone new. Someone who thinks he's sweet. Someone who hasn't read the note he'll one day leave on her pillow. I think you know. I've been on dating apps for a while now. Not really chasing anything serious, just putting myself out there, meeting people, having some fun. You swipe, you match, you chat. Sometimes it leads to drinks, maybe something more. Sometimes it's just dead air. I've gotten used to it. But Lorraine wasn't like anyone I'd matched with before. Her profile was oddly quiet. No goofy selfies, no sparkly filters, no adventurous soul looking for my partner in crime cliches. Just 5 photos, each perfectly lit and composed. One of her seated at a piano in a wine-colored dress, another at a formal dinner, surrounded by guests dressed like they belonged to some secret society. There was one where she stood in front of a vast stone mansion at dusk, the sky behind her bruised purple and gold. She had that kind of beauty that didn't scream for attention. It waited to be noticed. Her bio was short. I collect beautiful things. I appreciate detail. Show me who you are. It should have been a red flag. But instead, I paused. I told myself I was curious, that I'd never met anyone like her. That was true. But deep down, I think I just wanted to be chosen by someone like Lorraine. Someone who seemed so far out of my league, she didn't even need to play the game. So I swiped right. She matched with me almost immediately. Her first message came about 5 minutes later. You hold your head well. I like that. I laughed out loud. What do you even say to that? We started talking. And by talking, I don't mean flirty banter or memes. Lorraine didn't do small talk. Her messages read like something out of a minimalist poetry book. She asked strange questions. What do you fear most, being seen or being forgotten? Have you ever looked at someone and thought, I want to preserve you? She made me feel like I was auditioning for something. And I liked it. After 3 days of this strange but magnetic texting, she invited me out. She picked the restaurant, a rooftop place I'd only seen in Instagram stories, the kind with an 8-month reservation list and a dress code that required actual tailoring. When I got there, the hostess didn't even ask for my name. She just smiled and said, She's been expecting you. Lorraine was already seated at the far corner of the rooftop, in a booth overlooking the city skyline. She wore a sleek black dress and no jewelry. Her skin looked impossibly smooth in the golden light, and her posture was so straight it almost made me sit taller by reflex. Do you always arrive early? I asked, slipping into the seat across from her. I arrive when I need to, she said, then smiled. And you're on time. That's rare. Dinner with Lorraine was like being interviewed for a position I didn't know I applied for. She didn't ask what I did for work. She asked what I created when I was alone. She asked what parts of myself I hid from others, and whether I preferred chaos or control. I stumbled through my answers, embarrassed by how honest I was being. She, on the other hand, revealed very little. She said she worked in curated acquisitions, which I figured was some kind of high-end art dealing. She mentioned Europe often, Paris in the fall, Berlin in the spring, but with no specifics. Just enough to sound impressive. And it was. She paid the bill before I even saw it, then stood up and said, I'll be in touch. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. We didn't talk every day after that, but when she did message, it was never casual. Each text felt like a thread tugging me deeper into something I didn't fully understand. One night, she wrote, Would you like to see where I live? I said yes without thinking. Her house was nestled in a private hilltop neighborhood with long, winding roads and silence thick enough to muffle your thoughts. Her gate slid open as I pulled up, revealing a minimalist mansion, stone, steel, glass. It looked like it had never been touched by weather, dirt, or human error. She opened the front door barefoot, wearing a robe that floated around her like it had been designed for the breeze. Shoes off, please, she said, already walking away. Inside was quieter than outside. The floors were cold marble, the walls decorated with art that made me feel underdressed and undereducated. The air smelled like faint lavender and something older, deeper, like the inside of a forgotten museum. Wine, she asked. Sure, I said. She handed me a glass filled with something dark, rich, and expensive. This is from a vineyard in southern France, she said. It's not about the taste. It's about what lingers. We sat in her living room, 2 low chairs by a fireplace that didn't burn, just glowed. I asked her questions for once, how long she'd lived here, whether she had family in the city. She waved her hand gently. I don't believe in roots. Only curation. People confuse permanence with significance. That was the kind of thing Lorraine said. Strange, philosophical little statements that made me feel like she was either enlightened or deeply lonely. But I didn't leave. Instead, I let her ask me more questions. She watched the way I sipped my wine. She asked to see my hands. She complimented the curve of my neck. It felt less like flirting and more like assessment. Before I left, she said, Come again soon. You're shaping well. I laughed, but the phrase stuck with me. Over the next couple weeks, she sent me things. A watch that probably cost more than my monthly rent. A book I'd mentioned once in passing. A pair of shoes that somehow fit perfectly. When I texted her, How did you know my size? She replied, I notice things. You'd be surprised what people give away. She invited me back for dinner. Her dining room was candlelit and nearly silent, except for some ambient classical music playing from hidden speakers. The food was delicate, served in portions too small to chew twice. She watched me eat. At some point, she said, "Would you like to see my collection?" I thought she meant art. I nodded. She led me down a long hallway, one I hadn't noticed before. There were at least 10 doors, all identical. She stopped at the third one, pulled a small key from around her neck, and unlocked it. The room beyond looked like a museum exhibit. Spotlit mannequins stood in perfect stillness, each dressed immaculately in men's fashion. Suits, casual wear, even athletic gear. But it wasn't just the clothes, they had faces. Lifelike ones. Glass eyes. Styled hair. Sculpted expressions. Some even had light facial stubble. I moved closer. They weren't mannequins. They were casts. Wax, resin, silicone, something. Hyper-realistic replications of men. And in the center of the room stood one figure, wearing an outfit I recognized. It was mine. My jacket. My sneakers. My bracelet. I took a step back. "I told you," she said behind me. "I collect beautiful things." My skin went cold. "What is this?" "Memory," she said. "Art. Preservation. Don't look so upset, it's an honor. You're almost ready for your final sitting." I couldn't speak. She moved toward me, calm as ever. "I only immortalize those who deserve it. Most men fall apart before they're finished. You haven't." I put the wine glass down. My hand was shaking. I tried to laugh, like maybe this was all some elaborate joke. "You're messing with me, right?" She didn't laugh. I backed into the hallway. "I think I should go." She didn't follow me, just smiled and said, "Of course. But you'll be back. They always come back." I didn't sleep that night. I wanted to believe she was just eccentric. Rich people are weird, right? Maybe it was performance art. Maybe I'd misunderstood. But I couldn't stop thinking about that replica. My clothes. My expression, frozen in wax. I blocked her number. Deleted the app. Changed my locks, even though she'd never been to my place. But for weeks afterward, I'd find small packages on my doorstep. No name. No return address. Inside were things I hadn't seen in days. My missing cufflink. A sock I thought got lost in the wash. A receipt from the restaurant we met at. The last package was a small box. Inside, carefully wrapped in silk, was a sculpture. A miniature version of my head, flawless in detail. My eyes. My jawline. Even the scar above my brow. Beneath it, a note in her handwriting. "I told you. I preserve what matters." I moved out of the city after that. I met Ari on a dating app the week I re-downloaded it out of boredom. You know that feeling. You've deleted it 5 times already, told yourself you're taking a break from the chaos, but then a quiet Friday night creeps in, and suddenly you're swiping again. His profile was clean. No thirst traps, no shirtless mirror pics. Just him, smiling softly in front of a wall of books, and another of him at a lake in a red beanie. His bio was short. Looking to connect. Actual connection, not code for hookups. That was rare. It made me stop. He messaged first. Polite. Warm. Witty without trying too hard. There was something easy about our conversation, like we already knew each other in another life. We fell into a rhythm that made days move faster. Texting until 1 a.m., voice notes with snippets of his day, photos of the tea he was drinking or his cat curled up in the laundry. It was nice. When he told me he was trans, it wasn't a moment of hesitation for me. I respected the fact that he shared it so early on. He even mentioned he'd had bad experiences where people freaked out after getting close. I told him it didn't bother me. It didn't. Or at least, I thought it didn't. We met after 2 weeks of talking. It was just coffee, neutral ground. Ari was just as warm in person. Tall, but soft-voiced. Eyes that darted slightly when he was nervous, but never too far. Conversation flowed easily. We talked about movies, our jobs, family stuff, childhood memories. He didn't dominate the conversation, didn't overshare. He just made me feel safe, heard. That was new for me. After the date, I kept replaying our time together. It felt grounded, like something real. And I wanted more of it. We saw each other again that weekend. Then again. Then again. It wasn't long before I was spending nights at his place. His apartment was small but cozy. Books everywhere, candles that smelled like forests and firewood, a cat named Hugo who liked to curl up between us like a little furry barrier. It felt like a home, not just a space. We got physical too. And I didn't notice anything unusual at first. Ari was affectionate but patient. He never rushed me into anything, and when we were together, it always felt natural. I trusted him. I liked him. But then one night, things felt off. It started small. We were kissing. Everything was fine. Then as things moved further, he pulled away gently and said he was tired. I didn't think much of it at the time, but it happened again. And again. I could tell he was nervous, like he was holding something back. I didn't want to pry, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being kept at arm's length. I let it go, until one night, curiosity got the better of me. We were cuddled up on his couch, half watching a movie. He'd fallen asleep, and I went to grab a hoodie from his bedroom because I was cold. As I opened the drawer to find it, I saw a small wooden box tucked neatly in the back. I wasn't snooping, I swear I wasn't. But something about the box felt so deliberate, like it was meant to be hidden. I opened it. Inside were old photos. Not just of him, but of her. A different version of Ari. Long hair. Dresses. A face I recognized but didn't. It was like seeing a ghost that never died. There were notes too. Journals. Pieces of a life that had been folded up and stored away, but not entirely erased. I froze. I wasn't scared, I was confused. Not by the fact that Ari had a past. We all do. But because I suddenly realized, I didn't really know him. I didn't know how far he'd come, or how much of that old life he still carried inside him. I closed the box and put it back. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I didn't mention it. I couldn't. How do you even begin that conversation? Days passed. I started pulling back emotionally, even if I didn't want to. I wasn't being cold, I was being cautious. I was afraid to touch something too fragile, something I didn't understand. Ari noticed. He started texting less. His voice notes stopped. I tried to pretend I hadn't changed, but I think he could feel it. That space between us, tiny at first, kept growing. One night he asked me, "Is something wrong?" I wanted to tell him. I wanted to be honest. But I didn't want to hurt him. So I said, "No. Just stressed from work." He nodded, but he didn't believe me. The next time I came over, the wooden box was gone. I didn't ask about it. I just noticed. That was the same night he told me about the porcelain room. It was this little space in the back of his apartment I'd never seen. The door was always shut. I assumed it was a storage closet. But that night, he opened it. Inside was a room no bigger than a walk-in closet. Shelves lined the walls, each filled with delicate porcelain figurines. Tiny people. Poses frozen in time. All of them hand-painted. Some looked antique, others more modern. He said he started collecting them after he began transitioning. They remind me that perfection isn't real, he said, and that fragility can be beautiful. I stared at the figures, some smiling, some broken and re-glued, and felt something heavy in my chest. I wanted to reach out, say the right thing. But I didn't. I just stood there, afraid that if I said the wrong word, the whole room would shatter. After that night, things got quiet. Ari pulled away first this time. His replies came slower. His tone changed. I think he knew I'd found the box. Maybe not when or how, but he knew. I never confronted him. And he never asked. Eventually, we stopped seeing each other. No dramatic breakup. Just silence. Like someone slowly turning down the volume until it fades completely. I thought I was okay with it. But I kept thinking about the porcelain room. About those figurines. About how many of them had cracks that were painted over to look invisible. About how they looked whole until you really looked. And about how I'd never asked what happened to the ones that broke beyond repair. I met Leah at a bookstore, which already sounds like a lie. People don't meet in bookstores anymore, right? But that's how it happened. She was in the philosophy section, flipping through a dog-eared copy of Camus, and I made some dumb comment about existentialism being great foreplay. She actually laughed. We talked for a bit, and it just clicked. She was soft-spoken but sharp. The kind of person who listened with her whole body. She wore silver rings on every other finger, and spoke like her thoughts were just slightly out of sync with her mouth. Not awkward, but thoughtful. Measured. We went for coffee that day. Then for wine later that week. The third time we met, we were at her place, sitting on the floor of her kitchen eating cold pasta straight from the container, and it already felt like we'd known each other for years. I didn't ask a lot of questions early on. There was something about her that felt fragile. Not weak, just contained. Like she only gave you the part of herself that you could handle, and nothing more. But I didn't need all the details. I was comfortable just being near her. She had that effect. Her apartment was small and strange. Shelves of antique books, a wall of postcards from places I'd never heard of, and a single photo on her fridge. A blurry picture of a beach at night. No people in it. Just shadows and sea foam. I took that the last time I saw my brother, she said when I asked. I didn't push. We started spending nights together, mostly at her place. She told me she had trouble sleeping alone sometimes, that she didn't like silence. So I'd stay over, make us coffee in the mornings, leave little notes if I had to go before she woke up. For the first few weeks, everything felt normal, until the first time she wandered. It was around 3 a.m. I woke up to the sound of the front door creaking open. At first, I thought maybe she was just going outside for a smoke or something. But when I followed her, I found her barefoot on the sidewalk, walking slowly down the block like she was being pulled by something. "Leah?" I called. She didn't respond. I jogged up beside her, touched her arm, and she flinched, eyes wide but unfocused, like she was looking through me. Eventually, I managed to guide her back inside. She didn't say a word, just climbed into bed and fell asleep like nothing had happened. The next morning, she acted like she had no memory of it. "You're kidding," she said, smiling. "I've never sleepwalked before in my life." But it happened again 3 nights later. This time, I found her standing in the kitchen, barefoot on the cold tile, whispering something I couldn't quite make out. It was like she was reciting something. A list. Or a prayer. I recorded a few seconds of it on my phone, thinking I could show her later. But when I played it back, all I heard was static. I showed her the video the next day. She just stared at the screen, then said, "That's not me." I laughed nervously. "It literally is you." "No," she said, quieter. "That doesn't feel like me." That was the moment I realized we weren't talking about sleepwalking. We were talking about something else. Something she didn't want to name. I suggested she see someone. A doctor, maybe. She shook her head. "It'll pass," she said. "It always does." "Always?" I asked. She looked at me, smiled, but her eyes didn't match. "You're sweet," she said, and that was the end of it. I should have left then. Maybe not out of fear, just out of a self-preservation instinct. But I didn't. Instead, I stayed. I told myself I was helping, that she needed me. The wanderings became more frequent, more bizarre. Sometimes I'd find her standing in the bathtub, fully clothed, eyes closed, whispering something under her breath. Other times, she'd open drawers and rearrange their contents in perfect symmetry, then snap out of it like nothing happened. She never remembered any of it. Once, I caught her staring into a mirror in the hallway, swaying side to side like she was listening to music. But the apartment was silent. When I called her name, she turned to me slowly and asked, "Why are you wearing his face?" I didn't know what to say. I think I just backed away, went to the kitchen, waited for her to reset. She always did, like a switch flipping. One night, I woke to find her sitting cross-legged on the floor at the foot of the bed, eyes open, staring straight ahead. In front of her was a circle made of salt. A perfect circle. I didn't ask where she got the salt, or how she made the shape so precise. I just helped her back to bed. I started sleeping less, watching her more. I stopped going to work, started canceling plans. People asked where I'd been, and I didn't have an answer. I didn't want to tell them that I was afraid to leave her alone for more than a few hours, that I had this constant ache in my chest that something was happening inside her that I couldn't see. She began talking in her sleep. But it wasn't mumbling. It was sentences. Clear, complete sentences. "I'm not allowed to forget him. They made a hole in the forest. The water remembers. She keeps calling me back." I recorded some of it. Not to show her, just to prove to myself it was real. Eventually, I asked her about her brother. The one from the photo. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "We went hiking. Years ago. Near this lake up north." "What happened?" She was quiet for a long time. "Then, he disappeared. We found his backpack and one boot. That's all." I asked if he was declared dead. "No," she said. "No body." She didn't elaborate. And I didn't ask again. That night, she wandered outside again. I followed, as always. But this time, she didn't walk aimlessly. She walked with purpose. Down the street, through the trees behind her apartment, and toward the creek that cut through the neighborhood. She stopped by the water's edge. The moonlight made her look unreal, like porcelain. Still and too perfect. She crouched by the water, reached in, and pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook. She stared at it for a few seconds, then stood, handed it to me, then turned and walked back home, barefoot and silent. I opened the notebook when I got back inside. It was soaked, waterlogged, but inside were pages of handwriting. Names, dates, short sentences repeated dozens of times. I didn't follow him fast enough. I saw what I wasn't supposed to see. He still walks the water. The last page was blank, except for a single word. Stay. I didn't sleep that night. I waited for her to wake up and asked if she remembered anything. She shook her head. I showed her the notebook. She looked at it for a long time, then said, "That's not mine." I asked, "Then whose is it?" She didn't answer. Just turned and went to make coffee. I left that afternoon. I packed my things, kissed her forehead, and told her I needed time to think. She nodded like she already knew, like she'd been expecting me to say that eventually. I didn't block her number, but I didn't go back. A few weeks passed. I tried to forget, told myself it was just a sleep disorder, maybe PTSD, maybe something else. But then I got a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of the notebook, open to the last page. But the word had changed. Now it said, "Come back." I met Jude at an art gallery of all places. It was one of those trendy little openings downtown. Free wine, awkward lighting, and a room full of people pretending they understood abstract geometry on canvas. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I tagged along with a co-worker who bailed halfway through, but by then I'd already filled my glass and awkwardly committed to being present. That's when I saw him. He stood in front of a canvas smeared with dark red and gold, head tilted just slightly, hands behind his back like he was studying something sacred. There was something quiet about him, something self-contained. You know those people who seem like they're totally fine being alone? That was Jude. He caught me staring. "Do you see the shape in it?" he asked, eyes still on the painting. I blinked. "What shape?" "The body," he said. "It's upside down. You have to let your mind adjust." I didn't see it, but I nodded. He looked over at me and smiled like he knew I was lying, and didn't mind. We talked for the rest of the evening. About the artist, the wine, life. He was easy to talk to in a way that didn't feel rehearsed. There was no performance, just presence. When the gallery closed, he asked if I wanted to get another drink. That night turned into breakfast. Breakfast turned into weekends. And soon, Jude was part of my life in ways that felt seamless. We didn't talk labels, didn't rush anything. He was always available but never pushy. Thoughtful. He'd send me poems by text. Not cheesy, Instagram-ready stuff. Real poems. Ones that made me stop and reread them out loud. He worked in architecture. Or so he said. I never visited his office. But he always had a sketch pad with him. Curves and lines that looked like they meant something. I didn't pretend to understand. The only odd thing about him was how often he talked about his best friend, Milo. At first, I thought it was cute. Jude would mention him constantly. What Milo had said about a movie. How Milo hated pumpkin spice anything. How Milo once built a bench out of discarded window frames and called it a metaphor. They'd been friends since college. Never anything weird. Jude swore they were like brothers. He even said, "You should meet him sometime," though he never actually made that happen. Weeks turned into months. I was spending more and more time at Jude's place. He never stayed at mine, always said he preferred his own space. I didn't mind. His apartment was beautiful, clean, airy, filled with art books and candles that smelled like cedar and something faintly sweet like cardamom. One afternoon, I got curious. He was in the shower. His phone lit up next to me. A message from Milo. "You didn't delete the photos, did you?" The preview froze me in place. I didn't want to be that person, the one who snoops. But I couldn't help it. I opened the thread. There were dozens of messages. Not all incriminating. But odd. Photos of me sleeping. Of me brushing my teeth. Close-ups. Notes about how I respond to certain foods, my facial expressions, things I'd said. Things I didn't even remember saying. And more photos, some I'd never seen before. Some that felt too intimate to have been taken without me noticing. I put the phone down just as Jude came out of the shower. He saw my face and froze. "You read them, didn't you?" I didn't answer. He sat down slowly, wrapped in a towel, water still dripping from his hair. "I can explain," he said. I waited. But what he told me wasn't an explanation. It was a confession. He and Milo weren't just friends. They were collaborators. On an art project. He said they'd been working on it for years. Something about the intimacy of modern love. About voyeurism. Trust. Observation. They'd both agreed to document their own relationships from the inside. "I chose you," Jude said. "Because you were real. You weren't performing. You let your guard down." I asked him if he ever cared about me. He said yes. But that made it worse. I left that night. Furious. Confused. Violated. But I didn't block him. I don't know why. For weeks, he sent messages. At first, apologetic, then desperate, then cold. Finally, he said, "If you want to understand it, come to the opening." I didn't plan to, but curiosity has claws. So I went. The gallery was downtown. Small, white walls, soft lighting. Minimalist. There were no signs. Just a looping video playing on a screen in the center of the room. It was me. Clips stitched together. Me laughing. Sleeping. Sitting alone, staring out a window. Crying. Dozens of moments, some I remembered, others I didn't. Around the room were fragments of conversations, printed on frosted glass. My words. His. Overlapping. Tangled. And in one corner, a mirrored installation titled, "The Reflection Game." Inside were two chairs facing each other. On one sat a mannequin, wearing my clothes, with a face that looked like mine. Not exactly, but close enough to make my stomach flip. I left before anyone could stop me. I thought that would be the end of it. But the next morning, I woke up to a package on my doorstep. No return address. Inside was a USB drive. And a note. "You were never just a subject. You were the most honest mirror we've found." I never opened the drive. Sometimes I still wonder what's on it. Other times, I imagine Jude and Milo sitting in some studio, watching clips of my life and calling it art. I've moved since then. New city. New apartment. No dating apps. But every once in a while, I catch someone watching me a little too closely. A flash of a camera lens. A figure across the street. And I can't help but wonder. What if this isn't over? What if I'm still part of the project? What if somewhere I'm still on display? I met Maya on a night I wasn't supposed to be out. I had just gotten out of a long, emotionally dead relationship and swore I'd take a break from dating. I wasn't even looking to meet anyone that night. I just tagged along with a friend who convinced me that getting drunk and dancing was cheaper than therapy. Maya was standing by the bar, laughing with the bartender like they were old friends. She had this kind of wild beauty, black lipstick, too many rings, leather jacket with one sleeve rolled up. The kind of person you notice even when you're not looking. She caught me watching her, raised her glass like a dare. We talked. She told me I looked quiet in a suspicious way, which I still don't know how to take. But I laughed. That's the thing about Maya. She had this way of making everything feel like the beginning of a story. Like anything could happen, and you'd probably survive it. We danced. She pulled me close without asking. And when the lights came on, she asked me if I wanted to go somewhere less fluorescent. That was the start. Our first few weeks were a blur, in the best and worst way. She was intoxicating, both in personality and in the way she lived. Every day was a spontaneous road trip, a pop-up dinner party, a dive bar at midnight just because the moon looked too smug. She'd show up at my apartment with a six-pack and a head full of chaotic ideas. I told myself I liked the spontaneity, that I needed someone like her to drag me out of my shell. But the truth is, from the very beginning, I was trying to keep up. She drank. A lot. Not in a sloppy, falling over kind of way. In a controlled burn kind of way. She knew her limits and ignored them on purpose. I started drinking more too. Not because I wanted to, but because it was easier than saying no. Maya made everything feel like a challenge. A little competition, even in things that didn't need winners or losers. The night everything changed started like every other good bad night, with shots and music. She'd gotten us into this exclusive party at a rooftop club in the city. One of those places with $30 cocktails and neon glowing walls and DJs who wear sunglasses at midnight. She wore a silver dress and glitter on her cheekbones. She looked like a comet made human. And she was already a few drinks in when I got there. "I've missed you all week," she said, pulling me in for a kiss that tasted like gin and smoke. I knew she was lying. We'd seen each other 2 nights ago. But that was Maya. Her truths bent with the music. She pulled me to the dance floor, and for a while it felt good. Easy. Loud. Electric. But as the night wore on, something shifted. Her movements became more erratic, sharp turns, sudden drops to the floor, bumping into people like she didn't notice them at all. I tried to slow her down. "Maybe some water?" She waved me off. "Don't kill the night, babe." Her eyes were glassy now. Wide. A little too wide. We went back to the bar, and I told the bartender to cut her off. He nodded. But the moment he turned around, she stole someone else's drink and downed it without flinching. "Maya, what the hell?" She smiled. "Adapt or die, sweetheart." I laughed, but it felt hollow. It wasn't until we were outside, waiting for the rideshare she refused to call, that things really fell apart. She was pacing, talking about how the night wasn't finished yet, and how we should hit another bar, find something grittier. I tried to take her hand, and she snapped. She jerked away, eyes suddenly sharp. "Don't handle me," she hissed. I stood there, stunned. I'm just trying to help." "I don't need help," she said, voice rising. "I need freedom. You don't get to cage me with your concern." I didn't respond. She stared at me for a long moment, then laughed. "God, you're just like them." "Like who?" She didn't answer, just walked away down the sidewalk. I followed. That was my mistake. We ended up at some dive bar I'd never seen before. The kind of place with red lights and a sticky floor and a pool table missing 2 balls. Maya walked in like she owned the place. She did that in every room. People parted for her like smoke. I sat at the bar, ordering water this time. She disappeared into the crowd. 10 minutes later, I heard glass shatter. I ran to the sound. She was on the floor. Someone was yelling. And Maya was laughing through the blood on her forehead, surrounded by pieces of a broken bottle. I pulled her up. She leaned into me like nothing happened. "They started it," she whispered. Later, I found out she knocked over someone's drink, got in their face, and when they tried to push her away, she swung at them with a glass. We got into the Uber in silence. Halfway home, she grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry," she said, suddenly small. "I just don't know how to stop sometimes." I nodded, not sure what to say. Then she asked, "You'll stay, right?" I didn't answer, but I stayed. For a while. Things calmed down for about a week. She promised to slow down, to be better. Said she just had a rough patch, that she was working on it, but it never really stopped. Every calm moment was just the inhale before the next outburst. Then came the night she showed up at my place, drunk and crying. She told me she loved me, said I made her feel seen. Then she passed out on my couch and slept for 13 hours. When she woke up, she had no memory of the night before. Not even the part where she said my name like it was a lifeline. The last night I saw her, we went out for just 1 drink. It turned into 4. Then 6. I told her I needed to go home. She followed me. At my apartment, she started dancing in the living room, spilling beer on the floor, laughing. And then she fell. Hard. Hit her head on the corner of the table. Blood. Screaming. I called 911. She wouldn't let the paramedics touch her. Started kicking. Yelling that I made her like this. That I wanted her broken. She was taken to the ER. They let her go 3 hours later. No concussion. Just a bad cut. She never called me again. And I didn't reach out. But 2 weeks later, I found a letter taped to my door. Handwritten. Just 4 words. "Thanks for the damage." No signature. Just a lipstick kiss at the bottom. I haven't seen her since. But sometimes late at night, I hear a song we dance to and feel that same pull in my chest. That ache of something dangerous and beautiful. Like a spark you know better than to touch again. But still remember how warm it felt in your hand. I met Caleb through a friend. Not a dating app, not a bar, not even a setup, just a mutual friend's housewarming party. He was standing in the kitchen alone, sipping beer out of a mason jar and quietly laughing at the chaos around us. He looked like the kind of guy who didn't try too hard to impress anyone. Solid build. Slightly overgrown hair. Wore a plain black tee, like it was the only shirt he owned. He had that kind of calm that made you want to get closer, just to figure out what he wasn't saying. We started talking about books. Or maybe it was music, I honestly don't remember. What I do remember is how easy it was. How fast he made me feel like I already knew him. By the time I left, I had his number saved under maybe. Not because I was unsure, but because I didn't want to jinx how much I already liked him. We went on our first date 2 days later. Coffee turned into lunch, turned into an aimless walk around the neighborhood that ended with me sitting on my front porch wondering how it had only been 6 hours. By the end of the week, we'd had 3 more dates. He texted just enough. Called once. Asked questions, actually listened. He didn't feel like someone I had to perform for. I let my guard down. That's when things started to shift. The first time Caleb came over, I remember feeling a little nervous. Not in a bad way. Just that excited, kind of vulnerable. You know the feeling. You've just cleaned your whole apartment for someone who says they don't care if it's clean. He was impressed. Not by the space, but by the little things. "You organize your books by mood," he said, running a finger along a shelf. "That's kind of beautiful." No one had ever noticed that before. He stayed late. We kissed on the couch. Nothing more. He said he liked to take things slow, And for once, I didn't feel like it was a line. He left around midnight. I locked the door behind him. Or at least, I thought I did. The next morning, something felt off. The chair by the window was facing the wrong direction. My slippers, which I always left by the door, were by the foot of my bed. I brushed it off. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I forgot. That night, Caleb texted me. "Did you sleep okay? You looked peaceful." I stared at the message. You looked peaceful. We hadn't spent the night together. I replied, "Wait, how do you know that?" He didn't respond for a full 10 minutes. Then, "Oh, I meant last time I saw you. You looked peaceful then." I let it go, even though I felt that twinge in my stomach. That little internal alarm we're taught to ignore. Things escalated quickly after that. Caleb started texting constantly. Not clingy, just present. Always. I'd wake up to good morning texts before my alarm. He'd comment on things I hadn't posted yet, things I'd only taken photos of. "You should wear that gray sweater more often," he texted once. I hadn't worn it in public that day, just around my apartment. Another time, he asked if I'd gotten the grocery delivery I forgot to mention. Little things, but too many of them. I asked if he was nearby. Jokingly. He replied with a winking emoji. I stopped joking. About 3 weeks in, I came home from work and found him in my kitchen. Just like that. He was leaning against the counter, eating an apple. I froze in the doorway. "How did you get in here?" He smiled, easy and calm. "The spare key under your doormat." I hadn't told him about the key. I didn't even remember it was still there. "You what? Why would you come in without asking?" He looked hurt. Genuinely hurt. "I just wanted to surprise you. I thought you'd like it. You said you hate coming home to an empty place." I had said that. Once. Casually. While half asleep. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, trying to decide if this was romantic or terrifying. He stepped closer. I cleaned the kitchen a little. "Hope that's okay." It was cleaner. The sink was empty. My dish towel folded. My fridge reorganized. I told him I had a headache and needed to be alone. He left, reluctantly. That night, I changed where I kept the key. The next morning, there was a note slipped under my door. New spots a little less clever. I stopped responding to his messages. He kept texting. Photos of his lunch. A picture of a coffee mug I'd once complimented. I blocked him. He started emailing me. Then mailing actual letters. One every day for a week. They started sweet. "I miss talking to you. Things felt right with you." Then, "I know this doesn't feel right to you, but that's just fear talking." And finally, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I changed the locks. Installed a camera at my door. Filed a police report, though I knew it wouldn't do much. They told me, unless he threatens you or breaks in again, there's not much we can do. I asked, "Isn't this already threatening?" The officer didn't answer. For a while, things went quiet. No letters. No sightings. I started to breathe again. Slept more than a few hours. Even considered reactivating my social media. Then one night, I woke up to the sound of my balcony door unlocking. It was subtle. A click. A shift in the air. I live on the second floor. I held my breath. No footsteps. No movement. Just the quiet creak of the balcony door swinging inward. And then the smell. His cologne. Subtle. That faint, woody scent I used to like. Now it clung to the air like a warning. I grabbed my phone. Called 911. But by the time they arrived, there was no one there. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. Just a note on my kitchen table. "I don't need keys to know you." I moved 2 weeks later. New apartment. New number. New locks. No social media. I don't tell people where I live. I don't go to the same coffee shops. Sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. and check the closet. Other times, I find the salt shaker turned the wrong way. Or a pair of socks folded exactly how I used to do it. I try to tell myself it's nothing. That it's in my head. But I never forget the way he said it. "I don't need keys to know you." I met Sarah at a rooftop art show on a Thursday night I wasn't supposed to be at. I'd RSVP'd to the event weeks ago out of politeness, planning to flake, but work ran late, and I figured why not. Free wine, abstract sculptures, and a crowd pretending to understand the space between shadows. She was standing alone, sipping white wine from a paper-thin glass, gazing at a painting that looked like someone had had a nervous breakdown with a can of black spray paint. She didn't look bored, though. She looked still. The kind of still that makes you question your own movements. "You see anything in it?" I asked, trying to break the silence. She looked at me without turning her head. Her eyes were almost colorless in the low light. I see someone pretending they don't want to be seen. I laughed. The artist or the viewer? That earned me a smirk. You tell me. We talked until the lights dimmed, and someone clinked a glass for last call. Her name was Sarah, short for Seraphine, which she told me reluctantly, like it was a secret she didn't give away often. She didn't give much away at all, actually. And maybe that's why I liked her. We started seeing each other soon after. I didn't even wait the usual 3-day text window, or play it cool. I just asked if she wanted to get coffee the next day, and she said yes. From the beginning, it was slow burning, careful, elegant, like a book you only read in the quietest part of the night. Sarah didn't overshare. She never talked about exes or her job in detail. She worked in restoration, art, furniture, architecture. Something like that. She liked things that had to be examined gently. She listened. She asked questions that made me think. What did your bedroom look like as a kid? Do you trust your memories? And when I asked her things in return, she answered just enough to make you believe you knew her, until you realized she hadn't really told you anything at all. She had a 1-bedroom apartment on the edge of the city. Sparse but beautiful. Dark wood floors, pale curtains, a dozen houseplants, all perfectly thriving in filtered sunlight. She lit candles with long matches and played ambient jazz on actual vinyl. It all felt very curated, but never fake. We started sleeping over at her place after 2 weeks. She never once stayed at mine. The first time I noticed something strange was a month in. We were sitting on her couch, sharing a glass of wine, when I glanced down the hallway and saw a door I hadn't noticed before. Not the bathroom, not her bedroom. Another door, painted the same pale ivory as the walls, almost designed to disappear. What's in there? I asked casually. She didn't even look. My studio. Oh, what do you paint? Memories, she said. Then changed the subject. After that, I started noticing how she always kept that door locked. Always. I joked about it once, calling it her secret dungeon. She smiled tightly. Not everyone wants to be seen all the way through. A few weeks later, I started staying over while she was at work. She'd leave keys on the hook, tell me to make myself at home. I never went near the locked room. Not until the day it wasn't locked. She'd left early, rushing out for a last-minute restoration job. I stayed behind to finish a deadline on my laptop. Around noon, I went to grab something from her hallway cabinet, and I noticed the ivory door wasn't fully shut. It wasn't open, but it was unlocked. I stood there for a long time, hand on the knob. Then I pushed. The room was cold. Not from lack of heat, something else. The kind of cold that sits under your skin. The blinds were drawn, but a single beam of light cut through the dark and landed on an easel in the center of the room. On it was a painting. Of me. Not photorealistic, but close. Stylized. Off. The features were slightly distorted. My nose a little too narrow. My mouth twisted upward in a way that felt mocking. The eyes were blacked out completely. Underneath, written in delicate script. Version 4, ideal until cracked. I didn't move. My lungs forgot what to do. There were more canvases leaning against the walls, each painted with a different man. Different faces. Different titles. Version I too loud. Version 2 grew teeth. Version 3 didn't fit. Each one had red notations around the margins. Traits. Judgments. Laughs like he's hiding. Too agreeable. Wants to be devoured, not understood. I turned slowly and saw a journal on the nearby shelf. Open to a page. My name at the top. Beneath it, malleable. Patient. Wants answers but afraid to ask. May last longer than the others. I backed out of the room. Closed the door gently. Didn't lock it. When Sarah got home that night, I was already packed. She didn't ask why. She just looked at me for a long time and said, "I thought maybe you wouldn't open it." I didn't mean to. But you did. I waited for her to get angry. She didn't. She smiled, like someone realizing a dream was ending. "It's always the quiet ones who look the deepest," she said. Then turned away. I left without another word. I didn't hear from her for 3 months. Then one night, I got a link in an email with no subject line. Just a private invitation. A gallery exhibit. The other room, a study in disintegration. The preview image? My portrait. Framed in black. Centerpiece of the flyer. The caption read, "Memory is flawed. Versions become vessels. This is what remains when they leave." I didn't go, but I checked the gallery's Instagram later that week. There it was. My face. painted and refracted through her eyes. People were calling it haunting, intimate, viscerally disorienting. One critic wrote, "Why it captures the moment intimacy curdles into surveillance." They had no idea. It's been a year since I saw her. I've moved, changed my number, started locking every door, even the ones inside my apartment. I met Avon at an open mic night. She read poetry. Her own, I think. Or maybe someone else's. Honestly, I wasn't listening to the words, just the way she read them. Like each syllable owed her something. Like the room wasn't allowed to blink until she was done. She had this chaotic energy I didn't realize I was starving for. Avon didn't try to be cool. She was. The chipped nail polish, the messy eyeliner, the way she smoked like it was part of her breathing. It was all just orbiting around her, and somehow I got pulled in. After her set, I bought her a drink. She took it, clinked her glass against mine, and said, "Don't fall in love with me. I'm exhausting." I should have listened. Our first few weeks together were electric. Late nights that bled into early mornings. Window-shaking laughter. Music played too loud. She never sat still. Her idea of a date was sneaking into hotel rooftop pools or playing What's Their Story about strangers on trains. Being around her made the world feel bigger and a little unstable. She liked bars. The seedier the better. Divey places with too loud music, sticky floors, and bartenders who knew her name. She drank. Not socially. Not to unwind. But like she was chasing something that kept getting just out of reach. Still, she was fun. And when you're having fun, it's easy to look past the red flags waving like parade banners in a hurricane. One Friday night, she invited me to this club downtown called Glasswork. "I used to live in this place," she said. "I'm kind of a legend." I laughed. "You're full of it." She winked. "Come find out." We got there around 10:30. The music hit like a heartbeat through the pavement. Purple lights pulsed inside. It was one of those places where time doesn't work right. You walk in and lose 2 hours without noticing. Avon was immediately in her element. She ordered us tequila. Then more. Then something blue that burned my throat. We danced. We laughed. We screamed lyrics neither of us knew. Then something started to shift. She stopped dancing with me and started dancing at people. Guys. Girls. Anyone nearby. It wasn't flirtation, it was provocation. She climbed onto the edge of the DJ booth at one point and howled. I tried to pull her down. She shoved me away. "Don't babysit me," she snapped. "I'm not your ****ing project." Then she kissed me so hard I tasted blood. That should have been my cue to leave. But I didn't. We were at the bar when it happened. She was spinning, laughing, sloshing her drink across the counter like it was part of some dance. I turned to grab napkins, and in that second, I heard a glass shatter. Not the accidental kind, the violent kind. I looked up. She was holding the neck of a broken bottle. A man nearby was bleeding from the arm, eyes wide in disbelief. It all happened so fast, security yelling, people backing up, hands grabbing her. She screamed something incoherent as they dragged her outside. I followed. The bouncer wouldn't let her back in. He said they'd call the cops if we didn't leave. She laughed in his face. We walked home in silence. Her knuckles were bleeding. She hadn't noticed. When we got to my place, she walked straight into the bathroom and threw up. I brought her water. She stared at it like it offended her. "Do you think I'm crazy?" she asked, voice hoarse. I didn't answer. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She stretched, made coffee, kissed my cheek. "I think I lost an earring," she said. I stared at her. "You attacked someone, Avon." "No," she said. I defended myself. "I saw it." She didn't respond. Just walked to the sink and washed her hands. The blood from her knuckles swirled down the drain like ink. I didn't break up with her that day. Or the next. I told myself I was figuring it out. That it was a one-time thing. That maybe she just needed help, not judgment. She apologized in texts. Long paragraphs. Voicemails at 2 a.m. "You make me feel safe," she said. I've never had that. But her drinking didn't stop. And her rage had teeth. 3 weeks later, she came over drunk. I told her I didn't want to go out. She laughed. "That's why you're boring." When I didn't laugh back, she threw a glass at the wall. It missed me by inches. It didn't shatter. That almost made it worse. The last night I saw her, she showed up at my door barefoot, crying. Her hands were shaking. There was blood on her shirt, but I couldn't tell whose. She said, "I'm scared of what I am when you're not around." I let her inside. She fell asleep on my couch. I stayed up all night. In the morning, I wrote a note. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't keep cleaning up the aftermath. I left before she woke up, blocked her number, moved 2 months later. Her name was Aloan. We met at the DMV. Not exactly romantic, I know, but that's where it happened. She was standing in front of me in line, wearing combat boots and a green army coat, earbuds in, head tilted like she was listening to a song no one else could hear. Every few seconds, she'd glance at the board announcing ticket numbers, roll her eyes, and sigh like she was waiting to be rescued from the world. I noticed her because she didn't try to be noticed. She noticed me because I tried not to stare. "You look like someone who hates attention," she said suddenly, pulling one earbud out. "But low-key hopes someone notices you anyway." I blinked, startled. "Is that a good thing?" She grinned. "It's interesting. That's how it started. We got coffee after the DMV. She said her name was Aloan, like Willow but weirder. I asked what she did for work and she said, "Right now I'm healing." No explanation. Then she asked me if I ever thought my dreams were just other versions of my life watching me sleep. I didn't know how to answer. So I laughed. She smiled and said, "I like people who laugh when they're uncomfortable. It means they're still alive." And just like that, I was in. Aloan had this gravity to her. She was intense but not dramatic. Her eyes lingered just a second too long, and her voice always stayed calm, even when she said things that made me uncomfortable. We started dating immediately. No awkward texting period, no games. We spent 5 nights together in the first week. Her apartment was small, filled with incense smoke, vintage mirrors, stacks of notebooks, and half-burned candles. There was always music playing, slow, strange melodies that didn't have words. She never rushed anything, but she didn't wait, either. Time bent around her. She studied people the way a painter studies light. The first night I stayed over, she asked me questions until 3 a.m., weird, deep ones, not first date fluff. "What's something you were never allowed to say out loud growing up? What do you think your face hides from the world? Do you feel more like your father or your mother when you're lying?" I answered, "Honestly, I don't know why." She made silence feel unsafe. By the 3rd week, she'd left a toothbrush at my place. By the 5th, she had a drawer. It was around the 6th week that things started to shift. It was slow, almost unnoticeable. She'd ask about my friends, especially the women. Not in a jealous way at first. Just curiosity. "Who's Nova? She likes a lot of your posts. You text Quinn a lot. Was there ever something between you two?" I always answered, and I never thought twice about it. But the questions didn't stop. They just got more specific. "Do you find her attractive? Would you sleep with her if I didn't exist?" She said it with a smile, a gentle tone, but there was always a flicker in her eyes, like something was watching from just behind them. Then she started watching me. Not in a sweet, "you're so cute" way. In a clinical way. Like she was keeping track. Taking notes. I once caught her staring at me while I got dressed. When I asked why, she just said, "I'm memorizing how you look when you think no one's watching." The tipping point came the night she met my mom. It was just dinner. My mom made pasta, told a few embarrassing stories about my high school days, and Aloan laughed in all the right places. She was polite, engaged, even complimented the curtains, which no one had done in 20 years. But the moment we got back to my apartment, her face changed. She sat on the edge of the bed, fingers laced together, staring at the floor. Then she said it. "You're sleeping with your mom." I thought I misheard her, or that it was a joke. Some twisted attempt at sarcasm. I laughed. She didn't. She looked up at me, deadly serious. "I saw the way you looked at her. And the way she looked at you. There's something there. I felt it." "Aloan," I said slowly, "that's my mother." "Don't gaslight me," she snapped, suddenly sharp. "I know what I saw." I stood there in silence, too stunned to speak. She got up, walked past me, and went into the bathroom. 10 minutes later, she came out like nothing happened. Kissed my cheek. Curled into me in bed and whispered, "You make me feel safe." After that night, her obsession deepened. She started insisting I refer to my mom by her first name. Said "mom" was too emotional. She went through my phone when I was in the shower. If I laughed at a female coworker's joke, she'd ask, "Do you wish it was her instead?" I kept telling myself it was just trauma. That she'd had a rough past, and this was how it showed up. That if I stayed long enough, loved her enough, she'd heal. But the worse she got, the more I started to question myself. Was I doing something wrong? Had I led her to believe something? Was I somehow giving her a reason to doubt me? This is what people don't tell you about dating someone delusional. It bleeds into you. You start questioning your own reality. You start adjusting your behavior just to keep the peace. You start becoming less you, so they can stop accusing the version of you they've invented. Then came the night she showed up at my mom's house. Uninvited. My mom called me after. "Is she okay?" she asked, voice shaky. She asked if I ever did anything inappropriate with you when you were a teenager. I sat down. Cold ran through my arms like water. She what? She said it's okay if I lie. That she already knew. That she sees it in the way you talk about me. I drove to Alohan's place that night. I didn't knock. I didn't text. I just walked in and said, "We're done." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked at me and said, "They always run when they're close to being seen." Then she shut the door. For a few weeks, there was silence. No texts. No late-night calls. No cryptic messages. I started to breathe again. But I didn't block her. I don't know why. I just didn't. Then one night, I woke up to a sound. Not loud. A whisper. When I opened my eyes, she was sitting at the foot of my bed. Just sitting. Watching. How did you get in?" I stammered, trying not to panic. She tilted her head. "The window was unlocked." "That's not like you." I moved slowly, hands sliding under the pillow where I kept my phone. "You don't need to call anyone," she said. "I'm not here to hurt you." "Then why are you here?" She stood up, stepped closer. "To give you the truth. The real truth." "Alohan, you're not real," she whispered. "Not you. You're just the version I wanted you to be. But I see the cracks now. I see the pieces that belong to other people." I didn't say anything. She stepped even closer. "You still see me in mirrors, don't you?" "What?" "When you look too long." "I know. I feel it." She leaned forward and kissed my forehead. "You'll never be truly alone again." Then she turned, walked out the front door, and vanished into the night. That was 8 months ago. I changed the locks, got a new number, moved to a different apartment across the city. I haven't seen her since. But sometimes late at night, I wake up to nothing. Nothing, except the feeling that someone is still watching me from the mirror. I met Cashin on a Thursday. Not a special Thursday. Just one of those post-work, half-scrolling, half-hoping kind of nights. The apps were the usual carousel of sameness, over-filtered smiles, cryptic bios, photos that looked like they were trying too hard or not enough. But Cashin's profile was quiet. A black and white photo of him on a ferry. Wind in his hair, eyes half closed like the light was too bright. No gym selfies. No dog pics. His bio just said, "Looking for something real before I forget what that means." I messaged him first. He responded 5 minutes later with, "It's strange that being honest feels like a risk, isn't it?" We met 2 days later at a bookstore cafe. He wore all black jeans, turtleneck, even his boots. He smelled like cedar and a hint of clove, and he looked at me like I was something he wasn't sure he deserved to touch. The conversation flowed effortlessly. He was funny but not performative. Smart but unassuming. He said he worked in design, didn't talk much about it. Asked me more questions than he answered himself. I liked that. He was a little guarded, but in a way that felt safe. The first month was near perfect. Dinners, long walks, slow kisses in the dark corners of my apartment. He was affectionate but never pushy. He never rushed intimacy. When we did get physical, it was soft, intentional. Like he was memorizing how it felt rather than chasing release. He didn't talk about his past. When I asked if he'd been in love before, he said, "Not the kind that lasts. But maybe that's the only kind that's real." I remember thinking that was beautiful. Now it just feels like a warning I missed. I started noticing things in the second month. Nothing obvious. Just little slips. He'd avoid holding hands in public. Flinch slightly when I reached for him if others were nearby. One night, while scrolling through Instagram, I stumbled onto a photo. It was him. With someone else. A man. Their heads pressed together in a bar laughing. It wasn't tagged. But the post was from just a few weeks before we met. I asked about it. He paused, then said, "That's my friend. He means a lot to me." That was it. No explanation. Something about the way he said it felt hollow. The cracks deepened. Cashin became more distant when we were around my friends. He never wanted to meet my family. Every time I brought up anything serious, he would pivot. He'd say, "Why ruin something real by labeling it?" I started feeling like a guest in my own relationship. The warmth was still there, but only in private. Like we were acting out a love story that couldn't survive daylight. Then I met Julian. Completely by accident. I was at a gallery opening. A friend invited me. Cashin said he had work. Julian introduced himself near the bar. Tall, charismatic. Instantly familiar in a way I couldn't place. "Do I know you from somewhere?" I asked. He smiled. "I doubt it. Unless you date ghosts." We talked for a bit. He mentioned he worked in design, too. And then casually, as if testing the air, "You know Cashin, right?" My stomach dropped. I nodded. Julian swirled his wine. "Funny. I didn't realize he'd started dating again." My mouth went dry. "Again?" He looked at me, eyebrows raised, and said carefully, "He and I were together for 3 years." I couldn't breathe. Julian kept talking. "He didn't tell you, did he?" I left the gallery and went straight to Cashin's place. He opened the door wearing that same unreadable half-smile. "I ran into Julian," I said. He froze. Just for a second. Then nodded slowly. "I thought you might, eventually. Why didn't you tell me?" He exhaled. "Because that version of me doesn't exist anymore." "What does that even mean?" He leaned against the doorframe. "I was someone else with him. Someone I don't want to be again." "Why?" He looked at me. Not with anger. Not with fear. But with something colder. Shame. Because he loved the parts of me I was trying to erase. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and tried to make sense of who I'd been loving. Was any of it real? Or was I just a mask he wore to forget the one he hated? Over the next week, things unraveled. He stopped responding to texts. When I finally got him on the phone, he said, "I can't be what you think I am. I thought I could. I'm sorry." Then he hung up. That was the last time I heard his voice. But not the last time I saw him. 3 weeks later, I went to a party with friends. And there he was, in a corner, with a woman, smiling, laughing, touching her back like he used to touch mine. I didn't confront him. I just watched. And something inside me cracked. Not because he'd moved on, but because it was like I'd never existed at all. A few days later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a mask. Simple. Porcelain white. No expression. Just a note tucked behind it. "Sometimes we love people who only show us the face they wish they had." No signature. I never saw him again. Julian and I messaged once. Just once. He said, he does this. Builds versions of himself for the people he thinks can save him. I asked if he ever stopped loving Cashin. Julian replied, "I still do. But not the version I knew. The version he burned. It's been almost a year. Sometimes I dream of Cashin. But not the Cashin I held in bed. The one I never met. The one who lives behind mirrors, wearing masks stitched from silence. He never speaks in those dreams. He just looks at me, like he's wondering which version of me he loved, and which one he made up." I met Demi in the frozen food aisle. Seriously. She was standing in front of the ice cream freezer, staring like she was making a life-altering decision. Her cart had nothing in it but hot sauce and oat milk. "You look like someone who's about to make a really dramatic choice," I said. She turned, smiled slowly. "Everything is dramatic if you look at it the right way." I couldn't tell if that was a red flag or a flirtation. Maybe it was both. She gave me her number scribbled on a grocery receipt. By the next night, we were drinking red wine in my living room. She kicked her boots off like she lived there already. She moved through my apartment like she was cataloging it, hands grazing the backs of chairs, fingers tapping window frames. "You live like a man raised by a good woman," she said. "Is that good?" "It's rare." She asked about my mom on the second date. "What's her name? What's she like? Are you close?" I told her my mom's name was Rhea, that she lived a few towns over, that she made the best cornbread in the universe, and yeah, we were close. "Too close?" she asked. "Not at all," I laughed. "She's just solid." Demi smiled. Solid women build soft men. I didn't know what that meant at the time. By week 3, Demi had met most of my friends. They liked her. Said she was quirky, sharp, funny in a way that sometimes made you feel like she was laughing at you from the inside out. Then she asked to meet my mom. No hesitation. Just, "I'd like to meet the woman who made you." I told her we could plan something soon. Maybe dinner. She looked at me a little too long, then said softly, "I want her to like me." When she finally met my mom, it was supposed to be casual, just dinner at Rhea's place. I expected some small talk, maybe a little awkwardness. I didn't expect the transformation. Demi showed up wearing a pale floral dress I'd never seen. Her eyeliner was gone, replaced with soft makeup and a meek smile I didn't recognize. She brought my mom flowers, called her Mrs. Rhea. And the moment my mom complimented her dress, Demi blushed like a child. The night went smoothly, maybe too smoothly. They got along weirdly well. Shared a glass of wine. Talked about baking. But what stuck with me was this moment in the kitchen. I walked in to grab water and found Demi watching my mom chop garlic, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. Like she was watching something sacred. After that night, Demi started bringing my mom up in every conversation. Do you think Rhea would like this movie? Did your mom ever make you soup when you were sick? Your mom has such a calming presence. Do you think I do? At first, I thought it was sweet. Then she started texting my mom. I hadn't given her the number. When I asked how she got it, she shrugged. You left your phone unlocked. I just copied it. I told her that wasn't okay. She got quiet, then said, I just feel close to her. I want to learn from her. I want to understand her. I didn't know how to respond to that. Things escalated slowly, then all at once. Demi started dressing like my mom. Same colors. Same soft curls in her hair. She even bought the same perfume. I caught the scent on her scarf one morning. You're being paranoid, she said when I brought it up. Then she looked at me, completely serious. Do you miss her when you sleep alone? I didn't answer, because I didn't understand the question. One night, I came home from work to find Demi in my kitchen, wearing my mom's apron, making cornbread. The smell hit me like a fist. How do you know her recipe? She showed me, Demi said. We've been texting. I walked over, looked in the pan. She smiled. It's not perfect yet, but I'll get there. I called my mom that night, told her I was worried. Rhea was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, she's intense. Sweet, but something about her feels like an echo. I asked what she meant. She doesn't want to be close to me, Rhea said. She wants to be me. I tried to break things off the next day. Demi cried. Not like a girlfriend, like a child being abandoned. You're choosing her over me, she said. And I get it. She's the original. I'm just the copy. That's not. Do you still wish you could crawl into her lap and disappear? That was the last thing she said before walking out. I blocked her number. Deleted the photos. Tried to forget. But it didn't end there. A week later, I visited my mom. She was shaken. She came here. What? She knocked on the door wearing that apron. Said she needed to talk. Said you belong to her now. What did you do? I closed the door, Rhea whispered. But I could hear her breathing outside for 10 minutes before she left. That night, I found a note taped to my apartment door. She fed you. I made you. That means something. No signature. Just a sprig of dried rosemary taped to the top. My mom uses rosemary in her cornbread. I haven't seen her since. I've moved. Rhea changed her number. But every now and then, I get a letter. No return address. Just perfume on the paper, and messages like, I would have been a better version of her. You should have let me keep you safe. Mothers love unconditionally. I was ready to prove that. I met Jonas on a Tuesday. It was one of those boring, cloudy afternoons where everything feels a little too quiet. I'd been swiping through a dating app out of habit, not hope. Just trying to kill time on my lunch break. Then his profile popped up. No shirtless pics. No fishing photos. No gym stats. Just one picture. Him in a bookstore, smiling softly, holding a book I loved. The bio read, looking for someone to build a quiet future with. Bonus points if you believe in fate. It felt intentional. So I swiped right. He messaged instantly. We met for coffee that evening. I almost canceled twice. But when I walked into the little cafe, he stood to greet me like I was someone he'd been waiting years to meet. Hi, he said, and his smile didn't reach his eyes. They shimmered, not with charm, but with certainty. You look like a memory I haven't had yet. That should have been a red flag. Instead, I smiled. The first date lasted 4 hours. We talked about everything. Our favorite childhood books, dreams we didn't tell anyone, the way it feels to be lonely even in a crowd. He listened like he was memorizing me, repeating little things I said back to me later like gifts. You said your grandma made you peppermint tea when you were sick. That's why you drink it now, isn't it? Yes, I said, surprised. I didn't think I said that out loud. You did, he smiled. I pay attention. That should have been the second red flag. Instead, I felt seen. By the end of the second day, he'd sent flowers to my apartment. Not just a bouquet, a whole arrangement of peonies and eucalyptus in a ceramic vase with a handwritten card. You're the first calm I've felt in years. Oh gee. It was beautiful. Romantic. Suffocating. The third day was when everything cracked. He invited me to the lake. Said he wanted to show me the place he used to go to as a kid. It was secluded, surrounded by tall reeds and crooked trees. We sat by the water and ate sandwiches he packed. You know, he said between bites, I've never believed in taking it slow. I laughed. I've noticed. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small box. Not a ring box. A velvet pouch. Inside was a delicate silver necklace. It had a little charm, the infinity symbol twisted into a knot. I saw this and thought of you. Jonas, it's been 3 days. I know. Isn't that wild? He clasped the necklace around my neck without waiting for permission. That night, I told him I needed to slow down. He didn't get angry. He just went quiet. The silence wasn't sad, it was sharp. You're scared, he said finally. That's okay. You've been let down before. I'm not like them. I just don't know you yet. You will. And when you do, you'll realize we're the same. The next day, I didn't hear from him. It was a relief, until around 6 p.m., when I got a message from a friend. Are you at the park? What's going on? I had no idea what she meant. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message. A picture. Jonas. Standing in the middle of the local public garden. Holding a bouquet. In front of a crowd. Next text. Girl, is he proposing to you right now? I got there in 10 minutes, heart pounding. The park was buzzing. Dozens of strangers. Some filming. Some confused. And there was Jonas, standing beneath a white arch someone had clearly helped him set up. Rose petals on the grass. A Bluetooth speaker playing a violin cover of Can't Help Falling in Love. He spotted me. Smiled. Then dropped to one knee. 3 days, he said loudly. 3 days was all it took for me to know. You're it. You're my peace. My home. My future. He opened a box. A ring. A real one. The crowd gasped. My hands were shaking. I didn't say yes. I didn't say anything. I turned and walked away. He didn't follow. That night, he sent me a message. I forgive you. Fear makes people run. But we both know what this is. I blocked him. 2 days later, my apartment door had a note taped to it. 3 days was enough for me. It will be enough for you too. No signature. Just that same infinity charm, now broken in half, taped beside it. I moved a week later. Got a new phone number. Deleted the app. But sometimes I still see him. At the grocery store. Outside my gym. Never close. Just there. Watching. Waiting. And once, I found a rose under my windshield wiper. Tied with a ribbon. No note. Just a tag that said, "For would have been too late." I met Aisha on a dating app that I hadn't planned on keeping for more than a weekend. Her profile was nicely presented because she seemed calm. We chatted for a few days. No games. She was quick to reply, but never overly eager. Our banter had an ease to it, not electric, but something quieter, more grounded. She asked about my family, my habits, my weirdest childhood memory. When I told her about the time I accidentally fed my sister's hamster scrambled eggs and lied about it for years, she wrote, "You feel like someone who remembers small regrets too often. I think I'd like that in a person." By the end of the week, she suggested dinner. "I know a place," she said. "Cozy little Italian spot downtown. Feels like eating in someone's house. No pressure, just pasta and conversation." I said yes. I liked that she chose the spot herself. It felt deliberate. She felt deliberate. I arrived early. Rain had started to fall as I stepped into the restaurant, a softly lit room with low ceilings, brick walls, flickering candles. There was no music, just the quiet murmur of voices and the gentle clatter of cutlery. It was warm, inviting, and already filling with Friday night couples leaning in close to talk. I stood near the entrance, hands in my pockets, scanning the room. A few minutes later, Aisha walked in. She looked different in person, not worse, just more real. Her hair was slightly damp from the rain, her expression unreadable as she spotted me and smiled. But what caught me off guard was the man standing beside her. Older, maybe late 50s. Gray hair, well-groomed beard, a dark wool coat, and a certain stillness in his body that made him feel important. Or like he wanted to be seen that way. "Hey," Aisha said, reaching up to tuck a wet strand of hair behind her ear. "Sorry, hope you haven't been waiting long." "Not at all," I said, my eyes flicking to the man. "Oh," she added, a bit too casually, "this is my dad. He was already downtown, and we haven't had dinner together in a while, so I thought, why not combine?" Before I could say anything, the man extended his hand. "Suraj," he said. "Nice to meet you." I shook his hand, which was cold and dry. My mouth was dry too. I hope this isn't too weird, Aisha said lightly, as we followed the host to a table in the back. It's just dinner, right? The table was set for 3. I told myself it was fine. Strange, but fine. People have close families. Maybe this was her way of softening the awkwardness of first dates, by bringing someone she trusted. Maybe she was nervous. Maybe this was normal for her. But the moment we sat down, I knew it wasn't that. Suraj took control of the conversation instantly. He asked me what I did, what my goals were, whether I came from a stable home. He smiled the whole time, but the questions were pointed. Surgical. His eyes never left mine. I glanced at Aisha, hoping to catch her eye and laugh it off with a look. But she was just staring down at her glass of water, fingers laced tightly in her lap. So, Suraj said, do you consider yourself a decisive person? Or do you let others lead? I guess it depends on the context, I said. He nodded slowly, as if filing that away. Aisha needs someone with a strong sense of self. Someone who isn't easily swayed. Don't you, Habibti? She looked up and nodded. I like consistency. It was like they'd rehearsed it. The waiter came. Aisha didn't order. Suraj ordered for both of them. She didn't blink. When I asked for the wine list, he said, why don't we stick with something simple tonight? Red works, yes. I didn't argue. Over the next hour, I really tried, to pull Aisha into the conversation. I asked her about books, about the lake from her profile, about the kind of warm conversations she said she liked. Each time she tried to answer, Suraj would interrupt. Fill in the blanks. Expand on her thoughts like a translator who didn't trust the original speaker. She used to love the water, he said. Still does. Spent every summer by the lake until she was 17. Didn't you? Aisha nodded again. I watched her closely. She wasn't scared. She was frozen, somewhere between compliance and detachment. I felt my chest tighten, not because I was uncomfortable, though I was, but because I started to feel like I wasn't supposed to be here. Like I'd stumbled into something private, a ritual, and now that I was inside, I didn't know the rules. After dessert, I excused myself to the restroom. The hallway was dim and narrow, and as I passed the kitchen door, I heard a voice. He seems too loose. He laughs too much. That's not strength. I stopped. Suraj's voice. Soft. Stern. Controlling. There was a pause, then Aisha's voice, barely audible. I like him. Another pause. He reminds me of the part of you that used to be kind. Silence. Then a low sound, something like a breath being sucked in through clenched teeth. I moved quietly to the bathroom and locked the door. I stayed in there for 10 minutes. When I returned, they were waiting by the door, coats on, smiles rehearsed. Suraj clapped me on the shoulder. Thank you for your time, he said. Your time. Not your company. Not, it was great to meet you. Just time. Aisha didn't hug me. She didn't even look at me directly. But as they walked away, I saw her glance back over her shoulder. And that look, brief, flickering, gone in an instant, was full of something I couldn't name. Was it a warning? A question? Or just resignation? I never heard from her again. No messages. No unmatched profile. Nothing. It was like she was never there. But a few days later, I found an envelope taped to my apartment door. No name. No return address. Inside was a photo. An old one. A little girl in a white dress sitting on a man's lap, smiling up at him like he held the whole world in his arms. The man was younger, but I recognized him instantly. Suraj. On the back of the photo, in careful handwriting, it said, some people are never allowed to grow up. They're just trained to obey in nicer clothes. That was all. No explanation. No follow-up. I still think about that dinner sometimes. About the way Suraj looked at her, like she wasn't a daughter, but a mirror that only he was allowed to polish. And about the way she looked at me, that last time, not like someone who wanted to be saved, but like someone who knew no one could.